page numbers here, because I'm on page 33. Is it page 19 of the plan? I don't see a...
18, who said? Who said 18?
No, but what we were talking.
It's under, so if you continue through the plan and you get into the section that is the
Jurisdiction.
goals, section C, goals, objectives, and mitigation actions for 2018, goal 1, goal 2, mine shows page 29, I don't know.
That's what it is.
Okay.
No, it's actually 20.
Well,
I'm not sure that.
It's in two different places.
Okay,
goal 3, then goal 4.
Yeah.
When you get to,
okay, 29.
when you get to goal 5, where the objective is to continue to comprehensively approach reduce the level of damage and loss due to wildfires through vegetation management, code enforcement, GIS mapping, and planning process. Under 5H, or 5.1H, work with Lake Don Pedro Community Service District to improve system reliability, redundancy, and increase water supply in the responsibility areas. That is simply just, that's a county action that they will support our activities, as I talked about, in the event that the additional ground or surface water is required to make sure that we maintain water supply for the community. The next page, 5.1I, the numbers that they've got here are not quite right. Work with Lake Don Pedro Community Service District and PG&E to improve the reliability of the electrical grid and provide the emergency backup power supply. We don't have backup power at the treatment plant or at the pump locations, so that we rely on the amount of water we have in storage and the fact that we're going to get power supply back quick enough for our pumps to come on and fill it up. If we had a week without power in the middle of summer, it's going to be, we would certainly go and get generators, portable generators, and bring those back and have Bear Electric come out and help us, disconnect and connect those. But what we're talking about here is if there's an opportunity, a great opportunity to put in generators so that those were available in the event that there was a power outage, we'd make sure we have water supply. Or it may be helpful to PG&E to do things to improve their grid system. But certainly long-term power outages during a fire, not a
What would
good
you
deal.
say, would we need, what kind of generation system? I mean, would we need 2 generators? Would we need 3 generators? What would we need?
We would want to, you do a cost-benefit evaluation, certainly, in that, when you look at a place where, for example, Alamo Tank, you've got a hydropneumatic pressure system that serves, I'm not sure, maybe a dozen customers above the tank. When you look at that, when you look at putting in a generator that will power those 2 pumps that are there, the cost to put in that generator to serve those 12 people in the event of a power outage might not be as beneficial as having one at Central Tank where you've got 2 booster pumps that fill 2 other tanks. So you got to look at that. If somebody was giving away money and said just fix it and make it right, we'd have a generator, a fixed generator adequately sized at each of the locations where we needed power to maintain water supply. That would be what we would be looking at, the treatment plant being the first one, the intake site being another. There's no backup power there. So we couldn't pump water at all from the lake if we needed it, if we didn't have water stored here. So that's kind of it's an important thing to understand. We're not saying something that's just completely crazy.
Is that something you're going to look into, or I mean, is that something?
We don't have it on any existing capital improvement list or anything that's actively included in our funding. But, you know, looking at these things and talking to other people and meeting and, we're not the lone person here that doesn't have generators on their system. I mean, at TUD, they've got many locations, in Sonora, on Elks Hill, 300 and some odd people on a hydromatic system that immediately lose water when the power goes out, immediately. All those fire hydrants on top of the hill there immediately lose water, because there's no tank above it. So they've got some concerns there too. Okay, so I'll go on to the section 2, objective 8, with the which is minimize the level of damage and loss to people, existing and future infrastructure and critical facilities due to extreme weather. You would think that was heavy snow, heavy rain, all that kind of stuff. Well, drought has definitely shown that it causes extreme damage in our area. And so this would be the county working with the district to improve the availability and reliability of the Lake McClure pumping facilities at lower water service elevations. This is what we were looking for assistance with them from when the lake level was expected to drop below our pumping capacity, and also to be able to more reliably pump from that location. So this fits right in with the projects we've been talking about. The next page, work with the Lake John PEDRO CSD to increase groundwater supply and identify other alternate water sources to be used when drought and related reservoir operational requirements diminish the water supply from Lake McClure. Lake McClure is our primary and only real reliable water supply for the long term. We don't know the long-term reliability of any of our groundwater sources. And so this is an opportunity to take a look. When we look at the summertime pumping capacity of the 4 wells combined and the summertime peak demand of the system, even with 50% conservation, we were still short. We never had to worry about it during the summer because we only had to pump January, February, March. We had low consumption, we had no problem. But we need to look at what the alternatives are to make sure that there's adequate water supply in the event that we lose our McClure source. So then the remainder of this document just supports that in the form of a table. Those are the main commitments that relate to water supply.
It's really a wish list,
Yeah.
actually, for the whole county. The bottom line is it's a wish list for the whole county that gets addressed as funding is available. Is that pretty much true?
Yeah, in some case, it taps us into the efforts of a very aggressive staff at that county, and a very good relationship between the county staff and the OES staff and the FEMA staff and National Weather Service staff and everything. I mean, they really are integrated in their planning. And so if they're successful in a $20 million grant to deal with wildfire hazards, and we can include, $500,000 worth of generators, I think that's a pretty good way to go about it.
So this is just like this is a Me Too deal.
Yeah. And to show that we've considered it locally, we've talked about it, we understand it, we're not throwing some crazy thing in there, build a new reservoir,
So the upside is we have the potential of support plus additional funding, hopefully. And the downside is it's just a little more work on you instead of top two. I mean, we don't have expense, we don't have, and all of our shortcomings pretty much are public at this point. They're in this document.
Right, yeah.
So there's no surprises, so our visibility is up. So the only downside is a little bit of work for you too. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the work is in this, reviewing this and updating this and then meeting with the group. But once it's adopted, the workload is much less, so it doesn't really have that much of a burden.
So really no downside on this.
Something we don't have general.
Well, that's just one of the, a lot of things we don't have. We do have a lot of leaks.
Yes, yes. Is there any public comment on this item?
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Go ahead.
it's all gonna tie around the responsibility that we have to Mariposa County for all intents and purposes. First of all, I didn't have time to read this whole thing. There's almost 40 pages there. But in glancing through it, I didn't actually see Tuolumne County's plan. I think that 40 pages was primarily our plan.
Mhm.
So I don't know which of you guys read
Okay,
Tuolumne. No, I'm talking about in addition to that 40 that you saw here. And I don't know how many of you have read the 40 in detail and understood it. It sounds kind of like we don't understand it. It's just an awful lot. You guys have had almost 30 days to think about it, a little less than 30 days to think about it since it got crossed. I would certainly, since when this place was created, it was created for the public, and it was given, the responsibility was given to Mariposa County, and that was codified, how it was calculated to be Mariposa County, not Tuolumne County. And Mariposa County is the one responsible, and I haven't heard a single thing that indicates that we talked to the county attorney. When I talk about county, I'm talking about Mariposa. When he talked about county, he's talking about Tuolumne. Our attorney, the county attorney, the supervisors, LAFCO. I haven't seen anything in here about our CSD attorney. And so these are all things that are pretty confusing to me. We've also got a current lawsuit going on, not a lawsuit going on, but a complaint from the state concerning one of the major issues that we have. And you can just go all the way down the line. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. What it may be a bad thing is when Mariposa turns around and sues this district for going outside of the contract that they basically have with Mariposa County. And if this was such a good thing, and you were such a good provider of it, I'm not sure why this didn't happen back under your, when you were at TID. You could have been promoting it there, and all this would have been kind of behind us.
All right.
So I would highly recommend not approving it.
Thank you.
Victor? Oh, gosh, dang it.
That old bitch catching up with you?
Yeah, I get myself boxed in here. Oh. See, Director Warren, what I was referring to is on page 18, middle paragraph. Notice of public hearing was posted 2 weeks in advance on the county website, community bulletin boards, and through a press release. Notification letters were sent to Office of Emergency Services managers in all neighboring counties. So, that's why I said maybe Mariposa wasn't interested. Oh my gosh, there's just so much to this you know, on the surface, like anytime there's a bait and switch, what's bait, it always sounds good. It always sounds good. And then you do the deal and you find out what the switch was and it's too late. And this package about this program actually says that. It says, quote, adoption by the district demonstrates the jurisdiction's commitment to fulfilling the hazard mitigation goals and actions outlined in the plan. Adoption legitimizes the plan and authorizes the district to execute its responsibilities. Translation, even if ramifications are not in the best interest of the majority of the district customers or the district, if the board approves this resolution, it will be committing even more of our dwindling resources to another program with concealed special interest goals. Now, as Wes touched on, we've got violations to respond to the state already. And that was another question. I don't know how DWR is involved in that, with the exception of you probably provided on that MID shapefile when you applied for the grants for the ground wells. And if I'm wrong, you can tell me that right now. GM Camper, did you supply those maps?
Would you address your question?
Oh, I'm sorry, would you ask him if he supplied those maps? Well, anyway, so what we're talking about is our service area. We've got violations regarding our service area and how we've been operating, yet this plan is committing us to another program where Canada has already laid out what our service area is, and it is wrong. So you would be compounding a mistake. In addition to agreeing to commit our resources to this program, and if they're signing it tomorrow, even some of the material in here when it talked about that it was, how did they word it? They said that they gave all this information out for everybody, and then they used the term, oh, here it is. A staff report was prepared and made available to the general public for comment, and was eventually forwarded to the LDPCSD Board of Directors. Eventually. I'm telling you, there's a lot of bait here, but there's a sharp hook right in the middle of it. And it all goes back to you supplying water to your annexations you worked on 20 years ago, and you know it. But I understand why you can't admit it, because it's a conflict of interest, and you'd be admitting that you did a bunch of criminal stuff. I understand your situation. Thank you. I am gonna sit down.
Oh, the false accusations are.
Oh, didn't put me in false accusation. Speak up, speak up, you have the perfect time.
Let me,
Faith is a,
Speak up. Don't hide.
okay, is there any other comment, public comment?
Stand up.
Stand up, speak. I got you right here. Come on, tell us. You didn't give that MID shapefile map to DWR. Tell us. How did DWR get it?
All right, Lou, you've had your chance.
Oh, I thought he was gonna tell us. He stood up.
Okay. I'm gonna bring this back to the board. Is there any more board discussion on this, or?
Oh, yeah. The things that Wes Lou said have been going around in my mind on this thing. And one thing that I have a problem with this thing is, usually there's a staff report, and there isn't one, and then there's a staff recommendation, or a recommended motion. And all there is this document, and that bothers me, and I don't think I want to vote for it. But what you can do is, if these other two guys come in, you can just postpone this till they come in, because maybe they'll vote for it. But I'm leaning towards that this bothers me, and and it doesn't make sense. The money's great, but it's the old story. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. It sounds too good to be true to me, and it probably is, maybe. I don't know, but, I'm concerned about it.
what money? I didn't hear.
Well, there's money eventually, right? Is that what I'm hearing? And I said it's a Me Too deal, isn't that what this is? What we get, it's like grant money or some money to help us.
Okay.
And if it isn't, then I shouldn't even, then I definitely wouldn't vote no.
In other words, that's the bait.
Big grant money,
Yeah, the bait is the grant money.
No, I'm sorry, I'm just concerned.
No.
I mean,
I apologize.
So basically, I would kill this deal, so you should maybe postpone it till later, until Jimmy or somebody shows up, if you want to just postpone it. And, and anytime somebody says, like if you're buying a car, this is a deal that ends today, you gotta buy it today, or it ain't gonna happen, man, you gotta buy it, by 5 o'clock,
I don't think you could do that unless the directors that show up late listen to the tapes of the meeting that they missed.
We could table it for the next meeting.
No, because
No, we
it
can't.
runs out, it runs out
That's right.
today.
Do you see? Do you see what's going on here? They're forcing you into a decision quickly. That's where mistakes are
Let me
made.
address
All right,
your question.
Batman and the special
Staff
interest.
report. I know there's a lot of chatter, but I'm trying to address your question related to the staff report. It was provided at the last board meeting, and I should have just taken that report from the last meeting and plugged it back in for this meeting.
They had a recommended motion.
But the only thing that was missing at the last meeting was the actual document of the language that the county put in, so, but the recommendation was the approval of the resolution that adopts the plan. I don't have any grant source on the immediate horizon, but I don't know whether that's going to come through in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 4 years. whatever it is, the cooperation of the county and the relationship with the county of Tuolumne, I'm sorry, we're 60-40 in our split. We are a Mariposa County agency, but Tuolumne County in their staffing, in their planning, in their dedication to emergency planning and all that, it has much more staffing depth, and they have more funding going into that, and they have a relationship with the various agencies. So that is what promoted my interest to participate with them when they were asking me, what are you going to do about water supply? How are you going to deal with this? You know, we've got wells running dry, you know, we're dealing with a lot of things. Come in and sit at the table and we'll talk about this. And that was something that was extremely helpful to us throughout the entire process, because we had the office of through Tuolumne County's efforts, we had the Office of Emergency Services on the phone, on site and then on the phone every week for over a year. You know, it was a very good process. And this just takes that relationship to the next level. As far as legal obligation to the county or to Tuolumne County, we're under no legal obligation, under any obligation to Mariposa County, we're under no obligation to adopt this, or you could sit the CSD district attorney in this room and ask him if adopting a plan, a hazard mitigation plan, is in violation of LAFCO law, because LAFCO deals with services and boundaries. In violation of LAFCO law, the CSD law, any other law, so that I don't know what the CSD attorney or the county attorney would have to say that could ever cause a problem with us making a recognition of these potential water supply hazards and coming up with a plan on how to deal with it. You know, that's the main thing here, is that we do have that. We've talked about each and every one of these, except for the generators. We haven't really addressed the generators, but the reliability of the PG&E system, our ability to meet summertime water demand, the reliability of the PG&E system, our ability to meet summertime water demand on just wells, the quality of the water to meet the water supply needs on just wells, and the ability to be able to pump at lower lake levels and do it for 3 years. I mean, that was, a big feat. So I don't see anything that we're saying as being out of the ordinary or stepping out of anything that we would normally do in a responsible manner. Now, if we didn't recognize it and didn't think about planning for these things, then we are turning our back on something that's known. I can't say there was nothing thrown into this that hasn't already been discussed.
I gotta go on, I gotta read this thing here for a second, because starting on page 43, they start talking about responsibility, so it becomes on, gee, well, we enter into this agreement, who are we partnering with? Office of Emergency Services, County CRA, City of Sonora, CAL FIRE, Failsafe Council, Community Resources Agency, TUD. Trying to find some new ones. Jamestown Sanitary District, Curtis Creek School District, Bellevue School District, CAL FIRE again. This isn't shabby, and I read every bit of it, and it's not mutually exclusive. It doesn't say we couldn't enter into exactly the same kind of a document with Mariposa County.
And
It doesn't require anything of us other than to do what we're already supposed to be doing anyway, and that's the best part.
To me,
For our own people.
it's part of the
No
plan.
downside in this.
This is part of the plan that it's a planning exercise in my mind. And this is where we should be, It doesn't, I don't think there's a commitment that we're making. It's saying, this is what you should have. And it's not telling us, it's not gonna charge us if we don't live up to this. Am I right?
No, that's not what it says right here. You adopt it, you're committed.
We're committed to do the work.
Which is already something we were trying to get done in the first place.
Exactly, I mean, it's not a matter of that you've got to do it tomorrow, or that you have to do it next year, or the year after, or 3 years from now. It is as funding is available. They don't want to put money out for funding for some obscure project that doesn't have any relevancy, hasn't been discussed in the public, or, you know, that is the purpose of this, is to air these things out so that there's not a big
We're committing
controversy.
to do our jobs. Bottom line is, we're committing to do our job. Public
No.
representatives.
No, you're not.
No. Excuse me, Mr. President, this is not right. This is not right, for one
You
thing.
know what?
No one else speak.
You know, we've already given you an opportunity to speak on this, and
But what I'm hearing here is disingenuous, though. Do you want that to continue?
that's
Dan,
not true.
I would ask that the disruptions stop and that the board continue its deliberation. That's the responsibility of the board.
Can I make a simple comment?
Not, I would say,
You've had the opportunity.
No, but
And I already-
it's simple. It's very simple, be very quick, it's not insultive.
Lou, I'm gonna ask you to keep it. I'm gonna ask you
What?
to stop. All right.
But don't you think it's interesting that POU is not mentioned in this, or MID, or that we're responding to a state violation? Seriously.
Mr. President, what would a state violation have to do with a planning document for the future?
Because you tried to change
It has
POU
nothing-
illegally.
It has nothing to do with the place of use.
Lou, you are no longer on the board. I'm gonna ask you to refrain from any further comment. This discussion is between the board here. You've had your opportunity. All right, I'm gonna ask how the rest of you, how the board wants to pursue this, whether you want to hold off on this. I would be really willing to vote to approve this at this point.
I don't know, and I'd like to see us have those other guys, if it later in the day can be here, because I'm worried about what it is. It doesn't seem right to me, and there's something wrong with this thing, and I gotta put my finger on it, but it doesn't seem right.
Somebody was talking earlier, I mean, would you be comfortable calling council and talking to him? See if you were committed to something?
Me? You calling council? He calls council, but yeah, put him
Well,
on the
you
phone.
can too. I read it. You can call him anytime.
If it comes to dealing with the attorney, you want to do it in a coordinated manner, be either with the board president or with the general manager. If you have individual board members calling the attorney and asking individual questions all the time, you get individual different answers
Okay.
based on what questions you're asking, and these questions may have already been asked
Okay.
or not, so.
Would it be proper for us to do that and just make sure that that we're not smelling a dead fish here? You know, that's right.
How would we go about, because what do we have, 2 days to get this through?
No,
get this
today.
through?
You can always take a break.
Today, yes, that's right, tomorrow is the 15th, yes. So how would we pursue this to get this through before the 15th?
Just call
I
him.
mean, can we call them?
Well, you can,
Sandbagging.
we can adjourn or recess the meeting, and you and I have a conversation with them, and then reconvene the meeting. We just can't have the board sitting, right? It's not a closed
May
session.
not be available, you need
Right.
to consider that.
Mr. President?
You might want to read all those pages too.
Yeah, Mr. President?
Lou, you've had your opportunity.
Hey, well, listen, doesn't stop. This is a meeting, it's flowing, I have something to contribute. Would it be fair for the directors to come in without hearing the public's comments and make a decision on something that they missed? Seriously, does that make sense?
Would
Is
you
that
be interested
logical?
in having a federal grand jury in front of it, so
That's gotta be a violation.
federal grand jury? That could be arranged.
You know, you guys have had the opportunity here. We're trying to decide how we want to pursue this.
Can I ask Pete a question?
Yeah.
You were answering my question, and then you said, if they said to you, if you ran out of water, you didn't have no power, you didn't, what would you do? You said they would ask you that, and my question to them would be, and what would you do for them? What would they do?
What would they do to who?
You said, if they say to me, if you have no water, you have no power, you got no employees, what would you do? And my question would be, if I signed this document, what would you do? In other words, this group, whatever it is, what are you gonna do? If I can't do anything, what are you guys gonna do? In other words, they said, if you don't have water, power, and employees, you said in your statement, answering my question, they said to me, what would you do, Pete? My question to them, if I was sitting there and say, what would you do, whatever your name is? And how are you gonna do it? And where are you gonna get the money to do it? And how quick are you gonna do it? And can you do it quicker than I can do it, by signing this piece of paper? And the answer to that is probably no.
That's what they did.
What?
That's exactly what they did.
What?
The question was asked of them, and that's exactly what every entity puts on this piece of paper.
Which was?
All of the list of all the things to do. That's exactly what you're asking, is specifically what this exercise is about.
Okay, maybe I'm not, so we signed this, and we have no water, we have no employees, they were on strike, we got no electricity, and so we go to these guys and say, here's our problem. We would say, what are you gonna do about it? And they'd probably say, well, good luck, kick, punch.
You're asking how they could help
They're not there
us?
helping.
We don't
They
know.
would convene a meeting with the Office of Emergency Services, and
Why
they
can't we go
would
to the
consider.
office? Why can't we go to the office?
We
We've gone to them
We
already.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I went through them with the support and cooperation and encouragement of the emergency services manager for the county. And then the
Which
county.
county?
Which county?
Both counties ultimately.
oh,
Both counties.
yes?
Both counties were at the table.
but you
During the whole thing.
initiated the meeting, and they came, you said, come here, I gotta talk to this guy, right? Or was it the other way around? They said, Pete, come here, we'll let you talk to him. What was it, how did that work? Was it your meeting, or was it their meeting and you got to go?
It was initially, I believe, the very first conversation was between Supervisor John Gray and myself. And he initiated a conversation with Tracy Riggs, the emergency services manager for the county, and she said, let's get Eric Lammer online.
Okay, well, we're an
And
we're an independent public agency.
Mhm.
We're not beholden to either county. We don't have to do anything that they want us to do. We're the same as the county of Mariposa and Tuolumne, right?
Yes.
We're as powerful and the same as they are. We levy tax our water bills. Why do we have to go through those counties?
Okay.
Now, I can understand like a school district, which is part of the county, or a water, because some water districts aren't independent public agencies that are beholden to the county. They're a subdivision of that county. But we are an independent public agency, have nothing to do with either county, other than we're in their county. Mariposa is our office is, and we serve 2 counties. So, and, I don't
It's
know.
not tying us to the county at all, it's
The
just
hazard-
including us in their hazard mitigation plan.
The federal hazard mitigation money does not go individually to independent special districts unless they've adopted this plan. If
And they wait till now.
if we have not adopted a plan, there is a process to amend the county's plan on an emergency basis. But it wasn't a process that we could initiate and get done in time, the last time that we had the opportunity to submit. That's all. We're not individually eligible for this unless we've adopted a plan.
What do you call the money that, 'cause this is a question that I'm not clear on, but what do you call the money that we would get from DWR for wells? It's not hazard mitigation, it was a drought fund or something. Hazard mitigation is something that's there waiting in case there's a hazard. It's a different pool, different pile of money. The only way you can get it is to go through one or two of the counties. Is that what you're trying to say? I mean,
Well,
not allowing us to have money, I don't want to be the SOB to cut that off.
you're not going through them, you're going with them, because you've created this partnership.
Oh, it's a partnership
Agreement.
type fund.
And you have adopted this plan that agrees that you've discussed these measures
Yeah.
publicly. It's been addressed at the county level and it's been addressed at the local level. Again, like because if we were proposing to build a reservoir that would be extremely controversial, and we went in individually in the case of a drought and went in seeking this money and asked for money to build this reservoir to deal with this drought, but hadn't vetted it locally,
Right.
hadn't done it through a county process, how do you get the county involved in something like that? And how do you get, you're not gonna get the grant agencies as a hazard mitigation to get involved in it at all. This is a public process that makes it known what you're doing and shows broad support. It's similar to the IRWIMP, that we had to go through a collaborative process to bring these projects.
It's not exclusive, it's inclusive. It gets support from those counties. It's not, and it's a plan. It's not something, in my mind, it's something that we should be doing in the first place.
So where does the hazard mitigation funds come from?
Federal government.
The federal government. FEMA, you said?
Mhm.
FEMA.
Typically.
Can we not get money from FEMA right now for something? No. Is there
I
something?
don't know. I don't. Specifically, I would say that we are individually eligible for some pots of money. When you go to the Federal Register, the
Yeah.
list of all the different grants, there are certain things that we're eligible for, certain things we're not. Like community development block grant money. We can spend that money locally, but it only goes through counties and cities. So we have to go to the county of Mariposa, the county of Tuolumne to access that grant money for purposes that you can use it. So the federal government has a lot of restrictions.
I'm gonna set this aside and hopefully the other two board members will come
Is that
in.
how you do it?
I
I like
Not
that.
right.
And,
Why is that not right?
It's not right because they haven't heard the discussion. How can they vote on something they haven't heard the background?
I guess we'd have to rediscuss it again, wouldn't we?
You know, if a director
I'm
misses
going
a
on to the
meeting,
next item, and I'm gonna ask that you.
I just want to ask you, did
Why?
you know that's a board policy? Did you know that's a board policy? If a director misses a meeting, he must listen to the tape of what he missed before he can vote. It's common sense, it's logical. That's all I want to say.
Oh.
That's enough, all right.
Well.
Let me go on to the next item.
You're just gonna put this on hold for now?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna put this on hold, and hopefully those other two board members can show up at 3 o'clock.
Might as well go home.
Are we on 5D?
5D, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So the item is discussion and potential action calling for application for appointment of a director. We're going, Jim Salt has given us his resignation, and so this is in preparation for that. In lieu of calling a special election to replace Director James Salt, who resigned effective January 1st, 2018, due to the relocation of his primary residence outside the district. So we have to decide how we want to handle this selection of a new board member.
Just the way we always have.
And I agree, that would be to have the board appoint a person to replace Jim Salt.
If can
You
find
have to
somebody
advertise
who's
it first.
What's that?
You have to advertise it first. You cannot appoint on your own.
Absolutely, that's
Yeah, it
exactly
says it in
right.
there, but do we have
We-
to have
And we would intend to do that, yes.
14 days or something
So are you opening up to the public?
I'm gonna open it up to the
Trying follow
public.
your-
Yes, I'm gonna open it up to the public right now and give them an opportunity for input. So, do I have any discussion for the public on this? any comments from the public?
Just basically, that's the best way to do it. You're only talking about 1 year, right?
Yes, Jim was on for 2
Jim
years.
was a 2
Right? Yes, Jim was on for
2 year.
2 years, and so that would be
Yeah,
1
so
year,
you're just
yes.
talking about 1 year.
Till November.
And so.
And that's the least costly way of doing this.
But your advertisement, though, should be something that's not loaded. But that's the way to do it.
I won't say this because I'd probably get caught.
Dan-
We normally do advertise this, and we'll advertise it the way we've done in the past.
Well, the only reason I'm saying that, and excuse me for, arguing, coming back and forth. Pete has stated to the board that he is unable to hire people, okay? Now, there's a reason for it. And it's, it's a trust reason. And the same thing, you can't ask, for example, Randy, I don't think you can ask a Randy to sign off on items because he has a license, when the next level or 2 levels of work that he has to be approving is up above him, not down below him. I mean, so our whole organization is pretty upside down. And that's why I'm saying I don't think it should be something that's loaded. I think a person should understand what is going on. And that's what I meant by that. I didn't mean that, keep bringing in all the old crap.
Is there any other public comment?
Are you planning to advertise in the newspaper, or how are you planning to advertise that?
How have we done this in the past? We advertised in the newspaper in the past, am I right?
Both
Yeah,
should
we've
be,
we've advertised in the newspaper, and then I think we also posted out here.
should be both in the Union Democrat and the
On our
Republican
website, and I
Gazette.
think that,
Website.
I think we also did it on our website.
Foothill Express, you missed that deadline, I think it wouldn't fit in because.
But you gotta remember, this is
Well,
just
might
our
be.
local, this is our local. So it has to be through the only newspaper
There's a
we've got is the Foothill Express, and that only runs every 60, or every 30
Yeah,
minutes.
I said, I
We
don't
meet
think
the
it would work,
requirement,
is what I'm saying.
there is a requirement that we have to do.
Well, yeah, but I mean, to be honest about what you're doing.
All right. We've done this in the past. I don't think we're gonna have any problem doing it again. So, do I have a motion on the floor?
I move that we use the regular old thing that we've always done and put it in the newspaper and just the way it always done.
And appoint in the board.
There is a recommended motion.
Whatever, I move the recommended motion.
Okay.
I second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Again, we have 3 people, we have 2 people absent. And I will move on to the next item, which is conducting an annual board reorganization to include the appointment of office of president and vice president. And I will make a motion on this to retain the existing officers and whatever Jim is sitting on, that new board member will replace him. Can I get a second on that?
I'd ask a question before you ask me a second.
I don't think you can do that, because you have to have,
How can Danny
Danny's got
say
it.
I want to do it? if he isn't-
Danny,
I
you
assume
can't
he's gonna
nominate
do it.
him first. He's got to agree he's willing to take it. So I think we have to put this off.
Then
already-
another one we put
I
off
already
to the
talked to him
next
about
meeting.
that, and he said he would take it.
I don't know if that counts or not.
That's not, the question should be done in the public, not in private.
Yeah, just put it off to the next
Well,
meeting.
in the Brown Act.
We'll move our
I think you should
reorganization
do
to
it in
the next
December.
regular meeting.
Wait a minute, he's coming.
We're supposed
Or
to,
move
we
it
have,
later.
we have 60 days to do this.
What?
Procedure, no, it's the only time that there's a mandatory time requirement is when the district is originally formed, that you designate the president. The timeline to take up officers is a bylaws issue,
Okay,
and your process for doing it.
okay.
December is fine. It's agendized properly so that you could take action or you can put it off. It doesn't, the board president is gonna continue until
It's not
until
gonna,
it's
it's not gonna
changed
change
by the
anything.
board.
All right,
You could decline
things stay just the way they are until you do something.
And that would be another option, is if you did take action on the recommendation that, if you did decline, or if there was any controversy over it, that we can put it on the next agenda as well. Either way.
Sounds like there is controversy, and it's not gonna be a problem anyway, because we've already decided that we're gonna appoint the new board member, so, that the officers can be held up until the next meeting.
So you want to just defer this to
Yes.
the agenda?
We'll have the same ones, but he still has to be here to say, I want it or I don't want it, as far as I'm concerned. He'll probably say he does.
All right,
Well, the packet includes the directions for selecting that member.
yeah, and that's the big thing.
So is that some kind of a motion that we just made, or what? We
No,
have to
it's
approve?
just that
Okay.
there was a consensus of the board
All
to
right.
defer it until the next meeting.
Sounds good.
I'll do anything to make you happy, Henry.
I know it's gonna be you two guys, and I'll vote for you two guys, but I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
procedurally, he should say, yeah, I want it, I think.
Okay. So, the next item, we really can't do anything there. We're waiting for some input from, legal on this, and so I'm gonna set this one aside. And, which means which means there's no closed session item to discuss.
So we're done.
So, no, I'm not sure how to handle A. at
We
this
need to
point.
adjourn until we have.
So you wanna wait until those guys show up?
We may not show up for a while, because we're talking.
Okay, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting until 3 o'clock. And at that time, I hope to see either Danny or Jim show up. And then we'll get back in
Okay.
session for item
I
A.
don't know why, I would just, if it were me, I'd just say, well, they're not here, you know, I mean, I'd love to have you guys wait for you sometime. If I'm late doing something, well, I'll wait for him until he gets here, well, that'd be nice, it's never happened in all the years I've been here, but I'll go along with it's okay, but it's highly unusual to give somebody, to wait for somebody, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Well,
We have a deadline of tomorrow.
Yes.
We would like to get this thing
Yes.
resolved.
yes,
Um,
and I think at this point it takes 5 board members.
No, it doesn't take, it's gonna take a majority. Is what it's gonna take. I mean,
That's right. We don't have.
They're picking their board.
So we're adjourning the meeting at this point.
Recess.
Yeah,
You just want to recess
Yes,
this?
we're gonna
Oh,
recess.
wait, I had a question
Recess.
for you, Mr. President. I had a question for you.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, during this time we're waiting, could we have a tape made of the public discussion so the directors that were absent can hear it, so they know what discussion took place? Otherwise, they'll be voting for something without knowing what took place during the meeting they missed. Which is the whole reason we have that policy in our CSD booklet.
We'll give them the opportunity.
There's already a tape.
Before you take your break, I'm
That's what I'm
confused.
saying, all we have to do is play it back for them.
So
they
are
can
we
hear it.
at recess right now? Oh,
That's-
I'm sorry, I
no, that's
thought you
my
were getting
que-
up to walk out the
That's
door.
my question, I'm trying to figure out
I'm
what
sorry,
we're
sorry,
doing.
sorry.
We're at recess right now.
Okay, but are we recessing?
Once you cannot talk.
Okay, go ahead, we're recessed.
No, if you're on recess, you guys can't take up any business.
No, we can't do
Well, this is
this.
all I'm asking is what you're doing.
Hey, Dan,
And
want to
if
open
you're
up
recessing.
public comment and then go to recess?
They're waiting for positive votes to get what they
Well,
want.
I know that, but I'm asking, is D going to happen, or did you say it was not going to happen? That's my
That,
question.
that is not going to happen.
So that's
Not today.
canceled, that's canceled for today.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking.
I think you just vote yes, and you don't vote no.
And
Go outside and smoke.
That's right.
So, item D is coming back